Hi all, Violet here, second generation homeschooling mom of 3. I have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a toddler. Today I wanted to share with you how I've set up my kids' binders for the upcoming school year and how I use the Writing Revolution to make writing exercises for my kids. So let's get into it. So I'm going to show you the binder first, and I'll put a timestamp down below for the Writing Revolution exercises so you can skip ahead to that if you're only interested in that part. This is my daughter's binder. It's a 2-inch binder, and we keep all of our loose stuff in here. So I'm going to go through tab by tab and show you what we have in here and how I've set it up. The first tab is history, and our first part of history is the history timeline. I stopped keeping our timeline from year to year because we weren't looking back at it much, and it was just getting very messy and taking up a lot of space in here. This is the modern history one. That's what my daughter's doing this year, so it's only a few pages long. But for an ancient timeline, it was just so thick. For us, the timeline is more the act of putting the pieces on there and seeing what else is around when you're putting the events on the timeline, and less about going back to reference it. So for the little things that I put on the timeline, for Story of the World, some of the levels have timeline cards. I'm not sure every level does, but for the modern time, they do have these little timeline cards. And I printed 9, so each of these is 1 page in the student book, so I printed 9 pages to a page to get little things that would be the right size for my timeline, if that makes sense. And then for History Quest, I always buy the audiobook, and the audiobook comes with a file of all of the illustrations from the book. So I take that file and I print 16 to a page to get these little things to go on our timeline. And these are a little bit big, but it's fine. We don't really care if our timeline gets crowded and messy because, again, for us, it's really just the act of doing the timeline and seeing what other events are around the event that we're putting in, and less about creating something that we're going to reference forever and ever and ever. We have timeline books if we really... Like, I think our World History Atlas has a timeline if we really want a timeline to reference. Okay, so then after the timeline, the activity book starts. And I'm not going to show you a ton of this because they have a pretty big free sample, but I've just printed out the pages that I know we're going to use. So for this year, Story of the World actually has writing exercises in it, so I did not create any of my own. But last year, the ones that I created would have been here for Story of the World 3, and then also parts of History Quest US. And then for Ancient and Middle Times, we actually used Lit House Learning's history writing workbooks, and so the writing page for the week from those workbooks would have been here. So I always do writing page, whatever map work we have, and then there would be coloring pages after the maps if your kid does coloring pages. My daughter doesn't like doing the history coloring anymore, so I stopped printing them out. I also just wanted to show you, and then there'll be activity pages too, if there's an activity for that chapter. I just wanted to show you for the History Quest maps, I print out the map, and then I print out the page from the study guide that goes with the map so that my daughter can just cut these labels out and glue them on instead of having to write all of them, because it takes a long time to write all of them, and I want to focus more on the geography and less on like painstakingly writing everything. That's how we have our history notebook setup. It's pretty straightforward, just the writing exercises, maps, coloring pages, and then any activity sheets we're going to use. For science, I just have my daughter's science notebook pages in here that she's done. This is an example of one of the science notebook pages my daughter did several years ago. This is the one that she said I could share with you all. But for her science notebook pages, we use Building Foundations of Scientific Understanding. And so at the end of each lesson, there's some prompts for science notebooking. So I'll read her all of those prompts and then she'll choose one. And mostly I just have her draw a picture and then use that picture to narrate to me what we learned. So this is for the frog's life cycle. She drew all the steps, she labeled them, and then she used it to describe to me what happens in a frog's life cycle and why that's important. So that's all we really do for science notebooking. It's mostly just pictures that we use as an aid for narration. For spelling, right now I just have a bunch of blank paper ready to go for the new year that I've hole punched. Writing, this also usually has blank paper, but this year she wants to use a notebook instead, so it just has past projects in it right now. The next tab here is Chinese, and it has nothing in it right now because she cleared out all of her old stuff and we haven't started Chinese school yet. And then this last tab is math, and for this we use Singapore Primary 2022. So this tab is just all of the extension problems. At the beginning of the year, well, before our school year starts, I go online and I use my digital code that I get with the Home Instructor's Guide, and I download every single extension problem, reteach problem, and all the teacher resources from the website so that I have them all. So I've actually printed out and hole punched the entire year's worth, like all of the grade 5 extension problems for my daughter, and I only put about half of them in here because it just starts to get too thick if I put them all in here. And we don't usually save these because they're just an addition to our regular math program. We also don't live in a state where we need to create a portfolio, but I do like to save evidence of our work as we're working through the year, but I don't feel like I need this because I have the math book already. So we just put half in here and we recycle the pages as we use them, and then I'll put the other half in when she gets to the end. And then there's just some other like Chinese stuff in the back there. So that is how I have my daughter's binder set up, and my son's is set up the exact same way. He just has French instead of Chinese. All right, let's move on to the Writing Revolution. So like I said earlier, we used Writing Revolution resources from Lit House Learning for first grade and second grade, ancient and middle times. But for third grade, early modern, I used the Writing Revolution to write my own writing exercises to go along with my daughter's history. And for modern times, I won't be doing that because Story of the World, the activity book, has writing exercises in it already. So I am going to be doing some Writing Revolution exercises with our literature, but they're not things that I can prep over the summer. I'm going to be doing paragraph work now from the Writing Revolution, and that's more you have the template and you fill it in. Like the exercise is filling it in. I don't have to prepare the templates ahead of time. So last year when I was writing all of the exercises, I wanted to do all of the writing exercises for the whole year during the summer so that I could print them out and put them in our history notebook and have it all set up and ready to go when the school year started. So the way that I approached that is I'd read the Writing Revolution cover to cover, I think twice already. So I went back and read the sentence. I knew I wanted to focus on sentences for history. I wasn't going to be branching out into paragraph stuff yet. So I focused on the sentence chapters, which I think is really just chapters 1 and 2. I think I skimmed the other chapters a little bit just because it's good to have an idea of where you're going and what you're building towards, but I really focused in on chapters 1 and 2, thinking about which exercises I wanted to use and how to write the exercises and what the point of each of the exercises is. So it's really kind of difficult to make these exercises if you haven't read this book, because this book tells you why you're doing each specific exercise and what the point is. And it's hard to teach your kid how to do the exercises if you don't know what the point of the exercise is supposed to be, if that makes sense. And then in the back, in one of the appendices, they have suggestions for what you should be working on in each grade. And I just focused on the sentence level suggestions. And so for grade 3, which is what my daughter was in, they want you to do all of the grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 sentence level activities, plus some paragraph stuff, which again, we didn't do. So once I had gone through here, I chose which exercises I wanted to do. We didn't do all of them. I think the only one that they want you to do in here that we skipped is scrambled sentences. And the point of scrambled sentences is recognizing essentially what each word is doing in the sentence. But my daughter really does not like unscrambling the sentences. She just absolutely hates it. And that piece of knowing where each word goes, we're already working on in grammar in a different way, so I didn't feel like we needed to include that exercise, so I cut that one out. So we ended up with 8 different sentence level exercises, and I'm going to move over to the computer now to show you how I actually wrote them. So this is the Writing Revolution website, and you can create a login, and then you can download all of the templates and things that they reference in the book. So I just click on customizable templates here. They have all the sentence templates for the different things. Actually, I think there's a couple that aren't here, like sentence combining or something, but with the templates they have, you can easily modify them to make all of the sentence activities. So all the links are hosted on Google Drive, so I'm not signed in right now, but you click on that link, it takes you to the Google Drive. You can add the link to your Google Drive so you can access it that way, and then you have them all there. So here's all the exercises that I made. I ended up with, I think, 51 exercises. And I have this schedule that tells me what I'm doing each week. So I knew I wanted 2 writing exercises each week just because of the way that we schedule history. We listen to history twice a week. But some weeks we're listening to 1 chapter, some weeks we're listening to more than 1 chapter. So sometimes for my writing exercises, I'm working on the content of an entire chapter, and sometimes it's just half of a chapter. It really depends. So for each writing exercise, I would read whatever we were working on for that week, and then I had to create the sentences or sentence stems or whatever. This is fragments, so I had to make fragments and sentences, And the template has it set up all for you, so you can just plug that stuff in. I think the sentence combining, I had to alter one of the other PDFs. But like I said, it was very straightforward to just change things around to make all of the different things. So for these exercises, I'm focusing on the content. The point of these exercises for me for history is helping my daughter write about history to enhance her understanding and retention of the history that we've covered. So because I'm not using this part of it, at least, as my main writing curriculum, I'm choosing exercises and I'm choosing topics and I'm choosing sentences that are really driving home the point of whatever we learned in that lesson was, if that makes sense. For this subordinating conjunctions one, I added a list of the possible subordinating conjunctions just because I thought that would be helpful. I don't think the template had it, but for all of these things, when you're writing them, they say this in the book too, that you need to know what at least one right answer is, because some of them are more open-ended. There could be more than one right answer, but you should never be writing an exercise that you don't know the answer to. So I did not create answer sheets for myself just because I would be listening to the chapter again with my daughter right before she did all of these, and I figured I could figure it out again if I'd done it once before. But yeah, that's really all I did. It did take some time. I had to read through the whole Story of the World book plus all of the chapters from History Quest that we were doing. But I ended up with all of these writing exercises, and this worked really, really well for us. So I was really happy with taking the time over the summer to really make sure that this was all set up before the school year started. I hope that was helpful. I don't really have any other tips or tricks or advice about doing this. I really just followed the advice that they give you in the book, and you really do have to read the book in order to write these exercises successfully, in my opinion. Even if you're using Lit House Learning's exercises, I think you need to have read The Writing Revolution to get the most out of them. I think it's going to be difficult to use them well if you don't really know what the Writing Revolution's methodology is, if that makes sense. I'm actually going to share all of these writing exercises. I'll try to share the Google Drive folder in the description box. Hopefully I do it correctly. Sometimes sharing on Google is weird. I will say for these exercises, like I said before, there's no answer key. So you still have to read all of the stuff and figure out what the answer is going to be before you give it to your kid. And the other thing too is I numbered them based on the order that we were going. So if you don't follow our exact order, which our order is down here in this document, so you can see how they line up. But so this is not chapter 28. This is just the 28th week. Although it wasn't actually the 28th week because there's some Hugo weeks. But when I was just looking at the chapters, this is like the 28th week we're going to be working on history. Anyway, sorry, that will probably be kind of confusing, but I was just writing these for me. So I did it in the way that would make it easiest for me to file them all into my daughter's history binder when I was putting that together. So I hope you found this helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions about this, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. As always, I will link everything in the description box below. I am a Bookshop and Amazon affiliate, so if you click on one of those links and make a purchase, I do receive a small commission. Thank you for watching.